This is the lesson 5.2 mini lesson, and this is on, or our teaching point is that today I'm going to teach you how to apply properties of operations as strategies to multiply and divide rational numbers, because you will apply this to real world problems and you won't always have calculators, so we need to make sure we can compute with fractions and decimals. Okay, this is a tougher lesson, so you may need to pause and you may need to go back and re-watch some of this. Okay, the math prompt is that Mary has a piece of string that is 10 feet long. She's cutting the string into pieces that are 1.5 feet. They want us to determine how many 1.5 feet pieces of string Mary will have. They also wanted us to determine how many feet of string will be left over. So this is a pretty complicated problem. So what am I going to be doing? Step one, I am going to be determining. And first, I'm determining how many 1.5 feet pieces of string Mary will have. And the second thing I'm going to be doing is, again, I'm going to determine how many feet of string will be left over. Okay, so this is another one of those examples where a picture is super helpful. So this is going to be my piece of string. So this entire piece of string I know is 10 feet long. Now what I'm looking to do is figure out how many 1.5 feet pieces I can cut out of this. So I'm dividing this into groups of 1.5. So the math that I'm going to do is I need to take the full string, the whole 10 feet, and I need to divide it into 1.5 feet pieces. So now I just need to know how to do this calculation. I'm going to make this look like a fraction, and I'm going to make my other fraction improper. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, so I get 3 halves. Now I have to solve this. 10 over 1, my division turns into multiplication, and I use the reciprocal. Now when I look at this, there's nowhere for me to simplify, so I multiply across and I get 20 thirds. And now I'm going to turn that back to a mixed number. 3 goes into 20 6 times. That would be 18. There would be 2 left over out of 3. So that means there would be 6 2/3 pieces of string that I can cut from here. So to answer this first question, how many 1.5 feet pieces of string will I have? I can't have 2/3 of a piece. So I will be able to get 6 complete pieces of string. Okay, that answered the very first question. So I want to see what this looks like. So I'm going to try to kind of make this look pretty even. So I was able to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 full pieces of string out of here. But then this is what's left over. It's my leftover. So now I want to be able to figure out, well, how much is this that's left over? So I have 2 different ways that I can calculate this. So I'm going to do that down here, and I'm going to show you 2 different ways. So now I'm answering question 2 from up above. So the first thing I'm going to look at is if I was able to get 6 full pieces, and each piece was 1.5 feet. I want to figure out how much I used altogether so far, because each of these is 1.5 feet. Every single one of these. So I want to put these all together. So if I want to figure out what 6 of them comes out to, that's 6 times 1.5. Well, now I have to just solve. So that's 6 over 1 times 3 halves. I can simplify here. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 6 3 times. I multiply straight across. I get 9 over 1. So that means I used 9 feet of string was used for those 6 pieces. Now these numbers were pretty easy, so I can kind of even double check that. When I look here, 1.5 and 1.5, that's 3 feet of string. So this would be 3 more, that's 6. That would be 3 more, that's 9 feet of string that I used. So if I take, there were 10 total feet to begin with. So 10 total feet of string. And if I subtract the 9 feet of string that was used, that's going to tell me the feet of string that's left over. So again, my math problem would be 10 feet total minus the 9. I have 1 foot of string left over. Okay, this would be the answer to the second question. Now I can get that another way. So what we found out then was all of this to here was 9 feet. So if you look at that, the whole thing's 10 feet. We used 9 feet. What's left? 1 foot. Okay, another way to get that is when I found this out here, that this was 6 2/3 pieces of string I can cut from here, that means this little piece here, it's 2/3 of the next piece. But I wasn't able to get that whole next piece. So I'm going to write that. That's 2/3 of the next 1.5 foot piece. So in math, when you say the word of, that indicates multiplication. So it's 2/3 of the next piece that's 1.5 feet. If I multiply these, 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3 halves. I can simplify this. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 2 once. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 3 once. When I multiply straight across, I get 1 over 1, which is 1. So I have 1 foot of string left over. Notice that I got the same answer 2 different ways. So at the end here, it kind of asks me, does my answer make sense in context of the problem? How do I know? I'm going to say something like yes, because the string used for 6 pieces plus the leftover equals the original length of string. So if we go back, we know we used 9 feet of the string. We saw that right here, or we figured that out right here. Plus what's left over, there was 1 foot left over. That equals back to the 10 feet of string. So this does all make sense that I got that answer.